Okay, so we are recording now. So hello and welcome to Lily's Show and Tell series. I'm Cassandra Nieves, the Lily Web Committee Chair. Lily stands for Lifelong Information Literacy, and we're a group of librarians and information professionals who work to promote lifelong information literacy. Before we begin, I just have a couple quick housekeeping items. First, the session is being recorded. Oh, excuse me. And the recording will be available on the Show and Tell webpage by the end of the week. I will put that link in the chat shortly. Feel free to put your questions into the chat. I'm going to keep an eye on them. So any questions we have for our speakers, we'll get to towards the end. And finally, if you want to learn more about Lily or presenting your own Show and Tell event, my email address is in my Zoom name and it will also be in the chat shortly. Now on to our speakers. We have Mercedes Rutherford-Patten and Luna Larsen. Take it away.
I can go ahead and introduce myself first. Hello, hi, it's nice to be here in community with all of you today. My name is Mercedes Rutherford-Patten and my pronouns are she and hers. And I'm the Foundational Learning and Engagement Librarian at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. And then Luna, if you wanted to introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Luna Nombrano Larsen, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a proud autistic and dyslexic woman. I started the Empowering Autistic Scholars Mentoring and Research Training Program 2 years ago at Cal Poly. And I noticed a gap in services for autistic students there. I'm a passionate neurodiversity advocate and autism research, and I've been supporting students from marginalized communities and fighting for educational equity for most of my career.
Thank you, Luna. All right. Okay, so just a quick outline of what we'll be chatting about today. We're going to be focusing on the program Luna just mentioned, the Empowering Autistic Scholars program that she's directing and doing amazing things with. And we'll discuss about how me as working with Kennedy Library has been working with Luna to provide important library resources and community to VE students. So we welcome any and all questions at the end, and we're excited to share with you today. Okay, so just a little bit of background information real quick on our institution. Let me make sure my notes aren't covered up. That would be bad. So we are at California Polytechnic State University in San Luis Obispo, and it is one of 3 polytechnics in our 23 campus CSU system. We learn on the land of the Yaktituti Yaktahini, and they have a documented presence in this area for over 10,000 years. The Tahini peoples have stewarded their ancestral and unceded homelands, which include all of the cities, communities, and federal and state open spaces within the San Luis Obispo County and region. So as of fall 2023, we have about 22,000 undergraduate and graduate students, and our learn by doing is our school's motto. And then the picture you're looking at is actually the Robert E. Kennedy Library. It's the only library on the Cal Poly campus, and it is currently closed for renovation, and we're looking forward to opening with a bigger, better, more accessible space in about a year. So.
I'm so sorry to interrupt, but your slides are flickering.
Oh no.
I'm not sure what's going on, but I wanted to let you know.
No, thank you, because they're not doing that for me. Are they still flickering or?
Yes.
If I'm not touching it, that's very bizarre. Okay, one moment while I troubleshoot. Let's see if I can not have that be a thing. Okay. Okay, I hope this solves the problem. Is it better?
So far, I'll let you know if that changes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
These things happen.
Okay. Yeah, always. It usually only happens when I'm in like kind of a more high pressure stakes, of course. Okay, well, with that brief interruption, now I'm going to hand over to Luna to chat about the EASE program.
Thank you.
Of course.
So first, a little background on autism. So the number of autistic college students is continuing to increase, yet the graduation rates are remaining low at approximately 38.8% for autistic students versus 62% for allistic or non-autistic students. And for those who do earn their degree, there are many obstacles to securing long-term employment. And unfortunately, up to 85% of autists are unemployed or underemployed. Many work part-time at low-wage jobs, making minimum wage or even less. And in fact, autists have the lowest employment rates across all disabilities. So what is the cause of all these poor outcomes? 67% of autists are of average or above average intelligence, and most autistic college students are as academically capable as their allistic peers. Unfortunately, though, the transition to college is especially difficult for them due to the inadequacies of available support, services, and opportunities. Still, there is great news, actually, that there are proven methods of helping students thrive at college. Research has shown that access to formal and informal academic and psychosocial supports improve academic outcomes for autistic students. And EASE was designed with this in mind. So we are providing holistic support that students need to achieve their goals and become the leaders of tomorrow. I would like to note that the EASE program, our research and everything we do is based on the neurodiversity framework. And the neurodiversity framework or model of disability is an approach to learning and disability that suggests diverse neurological conditions such as autism, ADHD, dyslexia, Tourette's, are a result of normal variations in the human genome. Neurodiversity advocates promote support systems such as inclusion-focused services, accommodations, communication and assistive technologies, occupational training, and independent living support that allow those who are neurodivergent to live their lives as they are rather than being coerced or forced to adopt uncritically accepted ideas of normality or to conform to a clinical ideal. Different people think differently, not just because of differences in culture or life experience, but because their brains are wired to work differently. Autism is one form of neurodivergence and encompasses between 1% to 2% of the population. So EASE is an innovative new program at Cal Poly dedicated to building a community of mutual empowerment and support on campus. We provide students with the individualized support and professional development opportunities they need to thrive in college and beyond. There are three main components of the program: the inclusive community, academic and professional development opportunities, and holistic supports. So each students are welcomed into an inclusive, tight-knit community of peers and staff they can depend on. Each scholar is matched with a peer mentor who will help them navigate the complex world of Cal Poly. They also provide skills training and social emotional support. Scholars also work closely with EASE staff who teach them important professional skills, including research methods and communication and collaboration skills. For opportunities, the students work in teams and they are trained and paid to work as research assistants on a hands-on real-world autism research project, giving them ample opportunity to practice important skills they're going to need in their academic and professional lives. And for supports, all program supports have been tailored to help smooth our scholars' transition to Cal Poly. I work one-on-one with the students to create individualized plans that best serve their needs. And perhaps best of all of our services and supports are absolutely free for our students. I think we can go on to the next slide if you don't mind, Mercedes.
No, not at all. I'm worried I'll make it angry though. Hopefully I don't. Okay.
You know what? All right. So this slide provides some suggestions for improving communication with your autistic students. Of course, as humans, we all have many more similarities than differences, but because autists are a different neurotype than allistics, there are certain very important differences between us. We perceive the world differently than allistics do. We process information differently. We process sensory input differently. We process language differently, and we process social information just a bit differently. So unsurprisingly, we often communicate differently. And unfortunately, these differences in communication often lead to misunderstandings. And that's why I've created this table that has some suggestions. And this is based on my own personal experience, my research, and many years of working with autistic teens, children, and adults. Let's see. I'm not going to read the whole table for you, but so some of the highlights, when you are communicating with autists, please be clear, concise, and concrete in your language. Please avoid figurative language, idioms, sarcasm, and jargon. A lot of times we're very literal thinkers, so we're not gonna get all of those things necessarily. It will likely take us longer to process information that you give us and then answer a question. So please be mindful of that and be patient and with us if it does take longer. We often don't understand nonverbal communication, such as facial expressions, body language, tone of voice. If you ask us to read between the lines, we're probably not going to get it. So please just tell us exactly what you're thinking, what you need, what you want, and it'll be a lot easier for us to understand. Don't ask too many questions at once because it will be overwhelming for us. Let's see, background noise and activity is often also very overwhelming. Sensory-wise, we aren't really able to block out all of the things that an allistic person might be able to block out. So noises, things going on in the background, smells, all of those things, lighting, they're going to affect how well we're able to concentrate. Yeah. Anyway, so I think you'll be provided with these slides as well. So if you want to go ahead and look them over later, that would be great. And of course, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer questions about those. And I think next, are we going to the research, Mercedes?
Yeah. Well, we have the EASE participatory action research slide first.
Okay. So the overarching mission of the EASE program is to improve accessibility, engagement, and inclusion for autistic students at Cal Poly. We want all of our students to feel an empowered sense of belonging at their school, to feel confident that their voices are being heard and that they can work together to create positive change. And one of the ways EASE is uniquely positioned to create change is through the conducting of participatory action research that will then be translated for use on the Cal Poly campus. Our current project is developing a workshop to teach faculty and staff to be better instructors, mentors, and advisors for autistic students. We've decided to use a PAR framework because more traditional research frameworks often create a huge power imbalance between the researcher and the study participant, to the point that many participants feel as if they are used as nothing but living, talking information sources or guinea pigs This happens a lot in the autism community, which is one of the reasons why it's very hard to get autists to actually participate in research. A lot of research participants have no power to choose what research projects are going to be done and which would actually be most helpful to their communities, have no control on how their input is used, and research results are often not shared with them. As a result, many research participants feel disrespected and used. And this is especially true of research participation for marginalized communities, including the autism community. Currently, very few federal dollars are being used for research to identify ways of improving the lives of autistic adults. Very few of autism researchers are autistic, and the bulk of the research participants being chosen for these studies are neurotypical experts and caregivers of autists rather than autists themselves. And moreover, when actual autists do participate, their participation is often tokenistic with no real power. Because of this, many of the methods, interventions, and information resulting from these types of research projects are unhelpful, incorrect, and even harmful for the people they are supposed to be benefiting. So in addition to improving teaching and learning for autists at Cal Poly, conducting research will also help our students develop marketable skills and build confidence in themselves and their abilities. So if you think about it, our students are being paid to conduct socially valid research on a topic chosen by autistic students to develop targeted supports that will help themselves and their neurokin overcome barriers to success. Their ability to successfully conduct this research will invalidate many of the pernicious stereotypes about autistics and prove that they are just as capable of accomplishing great things as their realistic peers. PAR is a more empowering means of answering the rallying cry of many autistic and otherwise disabled self-advocates of nothing about us without us. And as you know, information literacy instruction is vital to the professional conducting of academic research, as our students are really learning as they move deeper into the research process, thanks to the assistance and support of Mercedes.
That's my cue. Oh, losing my voice. Okay, awesome. Thank you, Luna. So I will now take us to describing what some of the projects and programs that Luna and I are working on to not only support the EASE students in developing information literacy competencies to support their PAR project as well as their Cal Poly courses, being that information literacy is one of our core competencies. But I'll also talk about some of the community building supports that we're working on too, that I've been very honored to be a part of. All right, okay, I keep losing my mouse. I don't know why that keeps happening. So, okay, I'm first going to describe information literacy instruction sessions that we've been hosting and some that we're planning to host in the near future. So first and foremost, our goal is to create accessible and engaging instruction for a wide range of learners and interests. And we did this by using Universal Design for Learning and Universal Design for Instruction frameworks. And I will refer to those as UDL and UDI throughout the rest of my section. Both of these frameworks are invaluable for designing inclusive instructional environments because they offer multiple pathways for engagement, representation, and action and expression. So I'm going to define each of these, and then I will describe a couple of examples that or how we use those in our instructional design. So the first framework I'm going to describe is Universal Design for Learning. This might be familiar to you, it might not. So the nonprofit education research and development organization known as CAST defines UDL as a framework to improve and optimize teaching and learning for all people based on scientific insights into how humans learn. So CAST provides 3 guidelines with several concrete suggestions for implementing UDL. including multiple means of engagement, which addresses the why of learning, representation, which is the what of learning, and action and expression, which is the how of learning. So like universal design for learning, there's universal design for instruction, which is encompassed within UDL. So according to Cheryl Bergstaller, who is an expert in disability studies and the founder of the Do It Center and the IT accessibility team at the University of Washington, the UDI framework is the design of teaching and learning products and environments to be usable by all people to the greatest extent possible without the need for adaptation and specialized design. And I bolded that last part in particular because to me, that is one of the key components in this statement, where we can design instruction from right off the bat that is inclusive rather than having to adjust on the fly. Okay, so now I'll just describe a couple of examples of how we supported diverse communication and learning styles by using these frameworks. And the specific examples focus on two of our information literacy sessions. And I created this table to help organize these connections. So I hope this is helpful, but I'm always happy to clarify. And I will use the terms principle and guidelines and practices quite a bit in the next couple of minutes. So I apologize for the repetitive nature. So the first example of how we use these frameworks, we adhered to the UDL principle of representation, the guideline perception, combined with the UDI principle of flexibility and use and tolerance for error by providing fair access and usability to our instructional materials. And we did this in several ways to provide representation, including still images. We played videos during our session. We provided a screen and audio recording, presentation slides, closed captions and transcripts that were edited for accuracy, as well as some written notes. And the option to access different types of content at any time for the students, even after the instruction session, supports learner flexibility and varying styles of information processing. This is certainly something that I value, and it supports my learning style too. So the second example, we focused on the UDL principle and guideline, or UDL principle and guideline and of representation and perception, and the UDI principle of simplicity and intuitiveness to create presentation slides that were clear, concise, and as free from textual and visual overload as possible. And we also included an introductory slide outlining our workshop goals and to establish clear expectations for students so that they had an idea of what to expect for the session. And I kind of modeled that at the beginning of this workshop where I shared our roadmap or outline for today. So another example, we followed the UDL engagement principle and guidelines sustaining effort and persistence, as well as the UDI practice of class climate and interaction. So one of the main themes that Luna has been describing and that is really important is cultivating a community of support, and specifically in this scenario, a community of learners, and to foster an instructional climate that is conducive to learning. So we did this by beginning each of our sessions by sharing an inclusion statement, as well as communication guidelines. So inclusion statements emphasize the value of every student's contribution to the learning space, and it stresses the significance of fostering a sense of community that embraces diverse experiences and learning styles. Communication guidelines can also promote constructive and respectful discussions among participants. And we've included some examples of these statements and guidelines at the end of this presentation if you'd like to check those out and adapt them for your own instruction. Another way that we encourage interaction and community building, as well as peer-to-peer learning, which is something I very much value in my teaching approach, was through peer group activities. So for example, for one of our activities, we had students pair up to do a search for information on a topic of their choosing in our library catalog. And Luna could probably speak to this a little better, but choosing a partner or a group can cause significant anxiety for many autists, as well as holistics. So assigning partners was the preferred choice for us. But I also want to recognize that in other instances, providing students with opportunities to choose may increase their motivation, interest, and curiosity to learn. But ultimately, we decided that based on the students and what we know about them, that the best approach was to partner them beforehand. Okay, make sure I get the right slide up here. Okay, perfect. So the final couple of examples, we use the UDL representation principle and guidelines, comprehension and language and symbols, as well as the UDI principle of perceptible information to decrease information overload and confusion. For me personally, if I see a lot of text and things going on, my brain kind of goes into overdrive and I cannot focus. So I employ a scaffolded approach, and that's what Luna and I did to design this workshop and introduce our information literacy concepts, where we chunked concepts into distinct units. And those units, at least for the first session, included developing search term strategies, utilizing OneSearch catalog to retrieve information, and briefly introducing critical information literacy and our zine making sessions. So we moved through the session at a relaxed pace, and we did our best, as Luna mentioned earlier, to use clear and concise language to convey concepts and avoid ambiguity and non-literal expressions, which can be challenging for some autistic people. I personally, when I met Luna, I learned very quickly how often I actually use metaphors to describe library concepts. And I think that's actually kind of more common now that I'm thinking about it and from what I learned from other folks. So I am always happy to chat about that more offline. I'm kind of actually going off script right now, but I'm also a very sarcastic person in my personal life. So I've certainly learned a lot from Luna in this partnership and how to better support diverse learning styles and information processing. So back to my script. We also define terms as needed, either verbally, textually, or in both formats, because as library professionals, we're probably very familiar with our library jargon, and I'm always thinking about, like, am I saying something that a student understands? Is this the best word to describe? So the last thing here, we provided clear and verbal written instructions for each activity. So that is a simple slide that says activity instructions, it gives the purpose, and then each step of the process. And then we checked for understanding before starting to see if there's any questions, and encouraging students to seek clarification from us or from each other as they needed. All right, so those are a few examples of how we designed our information literacy sessions. And now I'm going to actually segue into zines for teaching critical information literacy skills. We are briefly introduced and defined critical information literacy and zines at the end of our second information literacy instruction session. And oh, my earbuds I think just turned off. Can everybody still hear me okay? Okay, that's very bizarre. All kinds of tech problems today. Okay, so there are many ways to define critical information literacy, but the definition that I most often use is by Eamon Toole, who defines critical information literacy as an approach to education in library settings that strives to recognize education's potential for social change and to empower learners to identify and act upon oppressive power structures. So I believe CIL ties into what we're doing with the participatory action research project, because we want autistic students to feel empowered to recognize, challenge, and resist dominant systems and oppressions that they face. And this ties into dominant information systems. So for example, thinking about who is publishing research on autism, who isn't. Some of those ideas that Luna was actually referring to earlier on. So we plan to dive deeper into CIL during our next zine making sessions. And just for those of you who aren't familiar with zines, Don Stahura describes them as self-published and self-distributed works. They're published outside of mainstream publishing and are typically low budget and embrace a DIY, or known as do-it-yourself culture. And they're a popular medium for sharing life experiences and are created by individuals or groups. So they're a great primary source and opportunity for advocacy, which is something that we want the EASE students to feel empowered to advocate on their behalf. So it totally makes sense and complements each other. So far, we have hosted one zine session, and it was super fun, in my opinion, where we gave the EASE students a chance to just explore their special interests and create and have fun and bond with us and each other, and just familiarize themselves with what zines are and what they can be used for. So in our next session coming up this month, we'll focus on source evaluation and citation skills as like a nice introduction to these topics. And as Robin Potter and Alicia Selly put it so well in their book chapter on using zines in the classroom, we'll embrace a collective questioning of how information is constructed, disseminated, and understood. So I'm thinking we'll probably adapt some of the great guiding questions that they posed in their chapter. And we're also planning to use zines as teaching tools. So I've added an example of one of those zines at the end of this presentation. It is called Cite This Zine by Barnard College, and it teaches readers how to cite zines. So it'll be a great way to introduce the idea of citations and show examples using the source we're actually creating. And hopefully we can take that time to dive into some of the politics around citations. All right, so to wrap up this section, we're still figuring things out and we're learning as we go with trial and error, and I'm embracing that, even though it's difficult to fail sometimes, but that's the only way to go up and learn. So we're receiving some good verbal and written feedback from our students, and that they're finding the ILI sessions useful, and they're starting to make connections on how those will be used in their research that they're doing for the EASE program. As well as in their classes, and they're also enjoying the zine session. So the students that unfortunately couldn't make it to our first session are eagerly looking forward to our second session this upcoming couple weeks, actually. So before I pass on to Luna for the next session, Luna, is there anything you want to add to this section? Anything I missed?
No. You're good.
Groovy. Okay, cool. Yay. All right. So I will pass on the mic to Luna to talk a little bit about our book club.
So as I mentioned before, building community is a priority of the EASE program. One of the key drivers of student retention is a sense of belonging, and unfortunately, autistic students are often bullied and rejected by other students, leading to a deep sense of isolation and a worsening of mental health conditions. Through one-on-one peer mentoring and a variety of social events, we've created a safe, inclusive space where our students can drop their masks and be appreciated and accepted as they are for their authentic selves. And the EASE Book Club is one such space. We also support students in their journey to let go of their internalized ableism and construct a positive autistic identity. Thus, our book club includes literature that supports autists' success and validates their experiences. To select books for the club, we've sent out a survey to students with my suggestions for potential books to read, as well as a section where they can add their own choices. We then conduct a popular vote to select the books that students are most interested in reading. However, for the first book club session, I did choose the first book called Unmasking Autism, Discovering the New Faces of Neurodiversity by Devin Price. And Devin's book really delves into the historical and social science aspects of autism, shedding light on the common phenomenon of masking, wherein autistic individuals either consciously or unconsciously conceal their distinct autistic traits to conform to societal norms in an attempt to blend in and be accepted by allistic people. Unfortunately, masking does not work. Many autists do not find true acceptance as a result of masking, and it actually leads to detrimental emotional, physical, and mental health. Overall, though, Devin's book is a celebration of neurodiversity and does feature lots of actionable steps for unmasking and embracing self-expression and encouraging individuals to live authentically and embrace their unique identities. So for the initial book club, Mercedes and I joined 2E students in unpacking the themes in Devin's book across 2 online sessions, each lasting for 1 hour. We initiated each meeting with discussion guidelines to establish a safe environment for honest and at times very vulnerable dialogue. And to stimulate meaningful conversations, we provided a set of discussion questions, and we also encouraged our students to contribute their own questions and topics. The discussion questions were reflective in nature, and they asked participants to share personal insights about their experience with masking and unmasking and how that shaped their lives. The questions also explored the intersectionality of people with multiple marginalized identities, a sense of agency and personal benchmarks. And participants shared to the extent that they felt comfortable doing so. And it was a great experience. The students really liked it, and it was a great book, honestly. We highly recommend it. But now I think Mercedes wants to share a little bit about her own personal experience participating in the book club as an holistic person.
I do. And I also missed my cue to switch sides, so I apologize, everybody. We did have slides for what Luna was just saying. But yes, that book was really, really informational for me. And I felt like I was able in the sessions with the students to develop a deeper connection with them and more meaningful. And I think, sharing about my own experiences with neurodiversity helped to convey that I'm an empathetic person and I'm an ally and I can be trusted. For me personally, it's a bit easier to open up, and I know that's not the case for everybody. And in recognizing that that is something that comes to me a bit more easier than some folks, I try to ensure that the presence I'm emitting is one of trust. So it was really nice to be able to discuss strategies from the book and learn about the students' lives on a deeper level, and chat about how we can integrate some of those strategies in their lives and other e-students. And then kind of and related to our book club, we were able to start a curated collection of books, including the book that we were just discussing, focused on neurodiversity through our library, the Kennedy Library. And it is through OneSearch, and I might misspeak because I'm not very technical with the library tools, but it's through the collection discovery option in the OneSearch catalog interface. And it was really nice. We were able to purchase about 40 books. We haven't actually developed the collection yet since we just purchased the books. And we're hoping that this is a space that students can come to and browse. And the screenshot displaying now is our current selection of collections that we have. So we're excited to have the neurodiversity collection highlighted. And we solicited ideas for what to include from neurodivergent individuals. And if you have any recommendations on any books, please let us know. I'm always looking to build the collection more. And all right, yeah, so that is on our book club and our collection of resources. So now I'll just share kind of briefly about the personal librarian project we've been working on. And that is a picture of me scuba diving. I felt like it was a very honest representation of my personality. So with my note that I'm always here to help with research. So Luna and I developed this personal librarian program for the e-students so that they have a dedicated person that they can go to for research and library help. Our current model is we have one librarian for each college, and then we have a couple of librarians that aren't associated with the college, me being one of those librarians where I work with a specific population of courses, lower division English and comms in our general education program. But I was able to make the EASE program a part of my offerings, and I'm so honored to do that. Research shows that autistic people might experience trouble asking for help for a variety of reasons, such as social anxiety, fear of failure, fear of bothering someone. From my own personal experience, I share all of those. I've been shaking this whole presentation and trying to do my deep breathing because I also suffer from social anxiety, even when I'm behind a screen. So I empathize with the students in that regard. And research suggests that if an autistic person has a personal relationship with somebody, they will be more likely to ask them for help, which I also anecdotally experienced too. So we initially launched virtual EASE drop-in hours over the winter. Cal Poly is on a quarter system, so we have 3 quarters each year, soon to be transitioning to semesters. But as of right now, when we launched those hours, I didn't really get a lot of action. And I think a lot of that had to do with that the EASE students just didn't really know me that well at that point, which is fine. And now, though, that I have met more students through our book club, through our information literacy and zine sessions, and also just communicating with them about what I can actually offer, I'm really confident that we'll start seeing the number of research help inquiries grow. And additionally, our finals are coming up in a few weeks. We're more delayed than semesters typically with finals. So I'm anticipating some questions in that regard. But another thing that I think will really help boost participation in my office hours is something Luna and I have been excited and we're hoping to launch together is the Summer Bridge program. And my part in that would be the library support, where I could meet the students right at the beginning of their college experience and establish that relationship and share with them the types of support I can provide. Whether that's using research tools or thinking critically about information ecosystem and topics. I'll also be launching a library focused page on the EASE website, which is forthcoming. So students will have my contact information and recommended library and research resources, especially related to their participatory action research project. And it'll all be easily accessible and centrally located. So we're still in the process of building out our partnership and our mini programs within it. And we're trying some new things to see what will increase engagement with these activities. But at the end of the day, we just want to make sure that we are providing what the students need and want. So Luna's really great about always asking them like, what's working, what's not, what do you want and need to be successful? So back to one of our main goals, we want the EASE students to feel confident and comfortable to ask for help when they need it. And that will more likely happen if they know that I'm a supportive and trustworthy person who genuinely wants to help them succeed. So we're still working on that relationship building. And I'm also totally open to new ideas on how to develop more meaningful relationships with students. So if this is something you like to chat about, please feel free to email me and we can connect on Zoom, or if we ever come across each other out in the physical space. So with that, Luna, is there anything else that you'd like to add to this section? Good. Awesome. And then as I click to the next slide, this picture was taken in the Channel Islands, and that is a sea slug, a nudibranch. Very fun. Okay, Luna, you're up.
Okay, so I'm just going to talk briefly about our future work before we go into the Q&A period. So as Mercedes mentioned, later this month, we're going to be hosting another zine session in order to introduce and explore evaluating and citing sources in a fun way through zine making. And then in June, we're going to be hosting a 2-part 2-hour research workshop to prepare students for the next step in the research process. And the first part will be an extension to the zine session, in which we do a lesson on evaluating sources with a focus on academic sources such as peer-reviewed journals and books. We will also delve deeper into critical information literacy, helping students understand the discrimination built into the peer review process, academic publishing, etc., and what they can do to include marginalized voices in their own work. And the second part of the workshop will teach the students how to conduct a literature review so that they can familiarize themselves with the current research on the work we're doing, learn what others have done, and better understand the academic conversation that they will be joining. And the last part will provide students with an opportunity to begin their research with Mercedes on hand to assist them in both starting their research, evaluating sources, and correctly saving and citing relevant works, which I think will be a fantastic opportunity for her to both deepen her connection with the e-students and show them what kinds of assistance she can provide, which we theorize will motivate the students to take advantage of her office hours in the future. And then again, as Mercedes mentioned, we are going to be starting work on developing a summer bridge program. And we're going to do that with using student surveys to get their input on what should be included in the program in order to best support our incoming fall students. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Luna. And here is our list of wonderful sources. Please, I encourage you to go check these out. There's some good stuff in there. And on that note, are there any questions?
Thank you so much. We did have one question in our chat regarding the book club. They asked, did you provide the discussion questions ahead of time?
No, we didn't. And that, now that you say that, it's like, oh, that would have been a really good idea, right? Oh my gosh, see, this is why I love doing this stuff, because we learn from other people. So thank you. I'm not sure whose name it was in the chat. I don't have the chat open, but I'm going to write that down. So I actually have a book club myself today for a brand new book I'm reading with a group on campus, and they didn't provide the discussion questions. So maybe I'll have to drop that idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? You can put them in the chat, unmute yourself if you feel comfortable with that. All right, I'm not seeing anything come through. So if no one has, we can wrap up for today. So thank you both. Oh, hold on. Just lots of thank yous in the chat.
You're welcome. Thank you all. I recognize some people in the chat too, so it's nice to have you all here.
Oh, I just had a question come through. How many personal librarians? I'm not 100% sure the context on that one.
Oh, maybe how many there are for the EAST program? Just one, just me right now. How many, Luna, how many students are in the EAST program? You could give that ratio.
There are currently,
I'll put you on the spot.
there are currently 9 students. And we also, everything in the program is also open to our mentors and other staff, research assistants, program assistants, many of whom are also autistic and are otherwise neurodivergent. So they also benefit from things. And we have 12 mentors and other staff.
Thank you. Someone said, do you want to describe autism versus autistic? Yeah.
So allistic, sorry,
Holistic, sorry.
We should have had we should have had definitions in the beginning. My apologies. So allistic just means someone who's not autistic. It could be someone who is neurodivergent in another way. It just means not autistic.
Someone wrote commonalities and different. Okay, perfect. How do students find out about the program?
So we are partnered with the Disability Resource Center on campus. One of the goals of the program was to complement what the DRC is already doing for our students. And so they actually send out flyers for our program multiple times during the year. They also have flyers up in the DRC, and when the specialists work with the students in their caseload, they also recommend the program to them. And we have folks in the counseling center who recommend our program to students. And a lot of people also find it by doing online searches for autism support at Cal Poly.
Amazing, thank you. All right, any other questions? Okay, you will have their contact information. So if you do think of something later, you should be able to reach out. So thank you both so much. This is absolutely fantastic. And I appreciate you so
Thank
much
you.
sharing with us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you. I hope everyone has a wonderful day.
Hi, everyone.
Bye.